Hello and welcome to Resilience Rituals for Writers. Here are 3 exercises specifically aimed at the creative brain to help you switch off from the red alert setting many of us have been on for a couple of years to a cooler, chill and be creative setting instead. It's writer and psychologist Philippa Davies here, using research from a project to help caring professions that I've shaped for imaginative minds. Now, with an imaginative mind, you're likely to be sensitive, reactive, maybe notice and experience things that others don't. So how do you protect the sensitivity which fuels your creative output with being resilient? Well, for Resilience Ritual 1 then, I'm going to suggest you imagine a character who is your protector, or prodder, or philosopher, or a mix of all 3. If you find it easy to summon up voices in your head, then you may want to describe this voice. Is it warm and sensible and Scottish, perhaps? Or soft and Southern American? Your character is going to live inside your head. They could be inspired by a film or books, a Yoda crossed with Sam the Hobbit maybe, or even a superhero. This character will have a philosophy and a mantra or 2 maybe, encourage you to get to your desk every morning and schedule your worrying or displacement activity. My character is a friendly old Welsh witch who tells me, get up and swim 3 times a week and then you'll feel better all day. I probably dial her up 2 or 3 times a week and she gives me advice. Now, Deborah James has written an amazing, very practical book on resilience through her treatment for bowel cancer, and she's a member of the You, Me and the Big C podcast team. She's on Instagram as Bowel Babe, where she shows immense courage, honesty and zest for life. She describes this voice of Bowel Babe as one she's created to help her cope, a ballsy, gutsy extrovert. For Resilience Ritual 2, then you're going to play Observer and channel your inner Charles Darwin, Georgia O'Keeffe or David Attenborough. You're going to zoom in on something, maybe something in nature like a stream or pond, or a plant or tree or bird, and you're going to fully engage your senses with this object. How does it look? How does it sound? Has it got a smell? How does it feel? You might even be able to taste it, but of course not if it's toxic or you don't know. Now, what would a day in the life of this object feel like? How do you, as the object, orientate yourself to your habitat? What are your most outstanding features? And where else do we see these? You don't have to confine yourself to the inanimate, of course, doing this. You can hone in on an animal or human being who fascinates you. You're just focusing on totally being absorbed by this entity and imagining its potential. You may feel like writing a poem about the entity or doodling it. Something or someone you can revisit frequently may be helpful. Visiting this stream, for instance, is my go-to. How is the universe for you today, beautiful piece of nature ritual? Some day the stream runs hard, sometimes it's just a trickle, and some days it is flowing in workday fashion, just doing its thing with ease and rhythm. Viktor Frankl survived 3 concentration camps and then went on to become a psychiatrist, studying the psychology of survival and recovery. He wrote 39 books, with his most well-known called Man's Search for Meaning. There are many inspiring quotes from him online, and he championed purpose and projects as good influences. For Resilience Ritual 3 then, we're going to create a sustaining story, an episode of your life where you've shown resilience and recovered. Our memories are tagged by emotions, which give us the vividness in what we remember. And of course, all stories have several points of view. In this story, you are to be the hero who is going through something, like maybe a pandemic, and one way or another, you are going to deal with it heroically. It doesn't have to be a monster event like COVID. It could just be going to visit your grandmother every day after school and enjoying a cigarette with her, which is one of my sustaining stories. A quick and easy format for a story is something happens, there's a problem, and then it's overcome or not, but something changes. It can just be about your seeing something differently. You may want to write this story down. Indeed, it's definitely a good thing to do, and store it in a digital file or notebook with a heading like My Sustaining Story or A Sustaining Story. If you need a prompt for this, then ask a good friend or supportive family member what they think you can be proud of. Each and every one of us has something. Regular students will know that I'm a Joan Didion fan, and her books about the loss of her husband, then swiftly after the loss of her daughter Quintana, are beautifully written attempts at making sense of loss. And before we finish, a final writer recommendation, Langston Hughes. This wonderful jazz poet has written a terrific and extremely modern-sounding autobiography of his life in the last century. As a seaman, a cook and a waiter in Paris, and a poet of Harlem during the Harlem Renaissance. It's called The Big Sea and contains many wonderful stories. Here is his poem to Harlan, which is one of my favourite poems ever. So, here you go then. 3 resilience rituals for writers to help us keep going without losing our sensitivity but honouring it. And I do hope you find them helpful. Please let me know how you get on. Thanks a lot.